You have the minutes from last time.
As we're getting ready, if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and just give some quick instructions. And then we'll let you
Sure.
get started.
That'd be great, Steve.
So this will be a municipal authority meeting for the Township of Newtown. I would make note that we are taking public comment one of basically three ways. You can make public comment by dropping public comment off at the blue drop box in front of the building. And we check that at 3 o'clock on the day of the meeting for that purpose. You can also make public comment at newtowntownship.org. Again, public comment, all one word spelled out, at newtowntownship.org. And again, Newtown Township is spelled out. We check both of those usually by 3 o'clock or after 3 o'clock on the day of the meeting, and we have checked both of those, and there was nothing in there. You can also make public comment here at the meeting because this is because we've now gone back to meetings in person. We are not doing public comment through Zoom. So just want to make sure everybody understands that. All right.
Okay, at this time, we'll call to order the Municipal Authority meeting of March 21, 2022. I'll take, I guess before we take roll call, I'll just make an announcement that we did have an executive session to discuss litigation matters prior to this meeting. So I call to order the meeting of the Municipal Authority of March 21, 2022. And I'll take roll call. Mark Kay.
Here.
Louis Rosenthal.
Here.
Paul Matafori. Not here today. And Tom Greco.
Yeah.
Maria Kane here. And Dave Porter is not here, but we do have from McCumbee Engineering. Jamie McCumbee.
Yeah, Jamie McCombie's here by Zoom. Special appearance.
Thank you, Jamie. And Steve Neese, Operations Manager. Here, and Mike Madron, our solicitor. Okay. Can we just all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item of business is approving the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Any public comment today for agenda items only? Anybody on Zoom looking to make public comment?
We're not taking.
Oh, we're
public
not doing
comment that
public
way.
comment
We're only
that
doing
way.
if they're here.
Gotcha. Okay, so hearing no public comment, we will move on. 7.1, consider approving the minutes for the February 22, 2022 meeting. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes from February 22nd,
Second.
2022.
I have one correction to the minutes now that we have a second. On page 3 of the meeting package, section 12, just the paragraph was redundant. It was just repeated. It was the discussion that we had around validation of completion of work. The paragraph just got repeated.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. We will consider accepting the resignation of Thomas Greco for the role as Municipal Authority Secretary. He will obviously remain on the Municipal Authority Board, but just giving up that role. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second that. Any comments or questions?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And just so that we do have a secretary, I'll make a motion to appoint Paul Metafury as Municipal Authority Secretary. He's not here tonight, but he did express interest in that position. And I have a second. on that?
Second.
Okay. Mark, thank you. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So Paul, going forward, will do the minutes, but tonight, do we have anybody that is formally taking the minutes? I think,
I got you covered as far as motion second.
thank you. We appreciate that. We'll keep any narratives if we need them. Okay. Any announcements? I don't know if, I don't have any at this stage, but does Steve, do you have any announcements that we need to? Okay,
I do not.
all right. And there are no fund transfers at this point. At this point, we'll take the treasurer's report. And I believe we have someone who will be providing the treasure. Is Rich out there? Okay.
Hi.
Hey,
Hey, so I have nothing further to add to either item 11.1 or 11.2, unless I will open it up if the board had any comments and questions.
I do, actually. Hi, Rich.
How you doing?
Good. We have 2 months in the package, January and February. I don't know if it's just an anomaly with starting the year, but the columns on the budget worksheet for January, they don't reconcile. February's reconcile it, column A minus B and C equals column D, but maybe it's just the way it starts out.
And you're talking about the encumbrance column, I'm sure?
The current year and then the current year actual and current year encumbrance, correct?
Yeah, yes, it's an end of the year thing. The report actually doesn't like prior year encumbrances. It has a hard time differentiating them. I will be sure I can remove that column from the January's report and resubmit it for approval.
Okay. February's, which is the most recent, looks fine.
Yeah, it is a challenge when we go to close out the year.
Yeah,
The system doesn't, it doesn't like it when you have encumbrances from the prior year that you're
Right.
doing. And so you have this moment where it just doesn't match up.
And I've noticed on the check register, and the last column sort of indicates there's, 1221
Yeah.
as opposed to 22. I don't know.
But we can remove it if it's cleaner.
It's my first go around, so.
no, I'm glad you caught that. I thought I caught that before.
Other than that, I thought the financial reports are great.
thank you very much, Rich. Okay, so we're moving on to payments. Consider approving the bills on check register A dated 3/21/22, totaling $65,646.42. Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thanks, Mark.
Second.
All right, thanks, Tom. Any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Consider approving the $726.36 refund to Ayman Shahikan at 705 Ellis Road for a tax payment sent to Express Bill Pay in Error. Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Any questions or comments on that one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Consider approving $48.50 refund to Catherine Rulon Miller at 205 Water Edge Lane for a sewer overpayment to prior settlement.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Consider approving the $55.46 refund to Howard Nikowitz at 3536 Winding Way for a duplicate payment. Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Mark?
Second.
Second, Tom. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Consider approving a payment from the bond totaling $1,232.50 to Herbert McCumby Engineers for Part 2 permit work, public sewer project relative to the Camelot surface area. Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thanks, Mark. I have a second.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Consider approving a payment from the bond totaling $1,315 to Herbert McCumby Engineers for Part 2 permit work, public sewer project relative to the Ashford service area. Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Second, Tom. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No bills to report on at this point, and now we're looking for an engineering report. And we'll turn it over to Mr. McCumby.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Since I was apprised, Dave was in the hospital today. He's out, he's not doing well, he needs additional tests, so I didn't find out I was going to be here until late in the day, so I don't have an agenda. So I'm going to cover items. If I'm covering something that's on the agenda, then if the board wants, I'll wait till that item comes up. But where I'm at right now is regard the old Masters pump station, the issue with the access and the electrical line. Currently, the MPDES permit application has not been submitted, but will be submitted in the next couple of days. Along with that, it's going to require 4 checks. There would be a check in the amount of $700 that would need to go to the Delaware County Conservation District for a base fee, an additional fee of $200 for earth disturbance. In addition, there's a fee to PADEP in the amount of $500 base fee and $100 additional disturbance fee. With that, it's anticipated once the submission's done, that it'll be about approximately 45 days to get the approval. Dave Porter has talked to Ed McGargy, who's the head of the Delaware County Conservation District, and Ed didn't see any reason why it couldn't be done in that time frame. Some of the board members, obviously, I don't know some of them, and other ones have been here for a long time. Usually the process takes significantly longer to do that. I did speak briefly this afternoon to Mr. Neese. My understanding with the temporary agreement for access and the electrical line connection to the pump station, that agreement is set to expire in June. Based on the information I have, I think it's prudent that like at least the process gets started. And I think Mr. Neese said it needed to get started several months ago to request the extension from Mr. Debaton to allow for the electrical line to be installed so that pump station can get up and running. In addition to that, with regard to, there was a request to start the warranties for the pump station, the associated facilities, once the pump station's officially up and running and not when it was previously tested. The vendors, except for my understanding, one, and Dave Chilson, who was the project superintendent for J.O. Bradley, the contractor, is waiting on a response from one of the mechanical vendors to give his okay. And with that, all of them would be okay to extend the warranty to its original contract document, and not, because there was a concern that when the pump station was started up and tested, which it ran, which is now approximately a year or so ago, that would start the warranty, and it's unacceptable to me. And Dave Porter was aware of that, because obviously it hasn't been up and running in full force as it should be to connect all the residents. So we're requesting that be extended. I'm waiting for one other person to do that, to get that extension. With regard to the
Pardon me.
dollar amount,
May I
yes,
ask a question?
sure, absolutely.
Yeah, and so I appreciate the pursuit on the warranties and the conversations your firm is having with the manufacturers. Do you have those things in writing? Do you have a commitment from them?
I don't have it in writing, but that's what we want to have it in writing so that the authority has it as part of the record.
Super, thank you very much.
Yep.
Sorry.
No problem. One of the other issues, a letter was sent now probably a half a year ago from J.O. Bradley, basically giving the authority a $5,000 credit to be absolved from any other construction out at the pump station. And with that, we had requested from them a letter, and I'm still waiting for the letter, that there's no other items outstanding that would come back on the authority for payment if we agreed to that accepting the $5,000 credit. We're waiting to get that response. Also waiting, I had spoke with Mr. Chilson and his boss approximately 5 months ago with regard to getting a final invoice from them regarding everything they feel that's owed to them to date. Some of it had to do with delays which were beyond their control. I also understand that the authority had some issues with restoration, other things that hadn't been completed. So I wanted to get the documents in writing. I did speak to Dave briefly this afternoon. He said, we still haven't received that information from Mr. Chilson. We're still waiting to get that. They're owed dollars, at least in our estimation, approximately $140,000, but we're not in a position to release the money until these other issues get resolved to the authority's satisfaction. So I wanted the authority to be aware of that. With regard to the Camelot pump station, Dave apprised me there was an issue. I guess the residents of Springton Point Estates, or Springton Woods, excuse me, had requested that they would like the fence relocated up to the building of where the pump station is currently constructed. I did talk to Dave, and Dave said by doing that, he feels it may affect one of the double door accesses to the pump station, but he said he would need to measure that. He thinks logistically it would still work. So it's a matter of closing the fence once it's open and there's access to it and the doors can be open, but doesn't know that with 100%, but I personally don't think, I've been up there, I don't think it's necessarily a problem. But he said it may, didn't say it would, but I think it's appropriate to give the board an absolute 100% answer. And in my opinion, even though I think it's fine, the issue would be, I mean, from Dave's perspective, he need to physically measure it to see if it is a problem. Sounds like even if it would be in conflict, once the gate would just be closed, when the maintenance gentlemen would be there, that it could still be accessed and it shouldn't be an issue as far as the maintenance goes. But I mean, that's where it's at right now. With regard to the Bentley Worthington issue, I don't know if that's on a separate item agenda or it's part of my report.
It is.
It is a separate agenda item, so you could hold off on that one until we get there, I
That's
think.
fine. The other thing he had is that the Westchester Pike sewer replacement, the plans and bid specifications are completed. David wanted to know prior to authorization to put the project out to bid, if the solicitor or the authority would like to review the documents prior to it being placed out to bid.
Which one is this? I'm sorry.
This is the replacement of the sewer line in front of Charlotte's on Westchester Pike.
Oh, right. Okay.
That the authority had authorized probably a year or so ago, but there was issues that came up with obvious Camelot and other things that sort of precluded that project from being put out to bid. We're in a position to do that, but obviously weren't going to put it out to bid without authorization from the authority. And David asked that I bring it up to the board if they wanted to review the bid documents as they currently are, or the solicitor did, prior to putting the project out to bid.
Didn't we already authorize that?
You did authorize it. I guess the question is, do you want the solicitor to review it before?
Yes, all bid documents should go to the solicitor, and the solicitor should review the bid documents before they're put out to bid, but yeah. Yes, assuming Mike Sheridan didn't review them already. Jamie, are you aware as to whether or not Mike Sheridan reviewed?
I believe he did not. That's my opinion. I believe he did not.
Can you get him over to me and then, I'll have, I'm sorry. Can you get him over to me and I'll have a conversation with Mike? Make sure he did. If he didn't.
That's fine. I thought I turned the lights off, but apparently I didn't.
Very good.
I think that's all I have unless the board has questions for me. Hopefully I'll be able to answer.
Hey, Jamie, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sure.
First of all, so at Camelot Pump Station, we still haven't gotten the vent covered with the cement cover. They still owe us money. That's the electrical contractor.
Okay. Let me find out about that issue. Okay. So there
Yeah.
needs to be concrete placed over what, there's a electrical bed that was constructed. Is that accurate?
To the right of the station, yeah. It's been
Okay.
over a year.
Okay, let me find out what the heck is going on. I honestly don't know the answer, but I will find it out.
Yeah, as long as you don't pay them for it as well.
Yeah, they're not completely paid, so that's fine.
And they won't be, so thank you.
I hear you.
Jamie, I have just a couple questions.
Sure.
First of all, obviously, we hope Dave is doing well, and please give us an update.
Okay.
Yeah. With respect to time frame on that, getting electric up to the Old Masters pump station, let's assume that the 45-day period is accurate as to when we're going to get this permit.
Yep.
How much time and who's coordinating the actual moving forward of getting electric up there?
We have a contract with Ford Electrical, who's the contractor for the job. They're aware of it. My understanding would take them between 2 to 4 weeks, once they were notified, to move ahead before they'd have the conduit up and running.
Okay, and can we
So
get
the
in touch with them now and as soon as this permit is submitted, so that they have a heads up, so that they can be?
Yeah, they would need, yeah, I think that's appropriate. They can actually get their men scheduled, so we're not going to get a delay waiting to the last second. Oh, now we have the permit, and they'll say, oh, I got to wait for 6 weeks before we can do it. That's a great point.
Yeah.
I think I need to do
I
that.
want- And if someone could send me an email confirming that communication has been sent out to Ford,
Okay, that's fine. It's not a problem.
I appreciate that. Okay, and then with respect to the Old Masters pump station, there's been no substantial completion letter issued yet at this point. Is that true?
Yes, I refused to do it because there's
Okay,
no,
that's
the
right.
electric's not hooked up.
Yeah, no,
It'd be kind of hard to use a pump station if it doesn't run.
I just.
Yeah, they wanted me to do that, but I refused to do it.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I had clarification on that. And
Oh, the other thing, Maria, is I forgot that the two gentlemen that are there. So you know, I'm Dave's boss, but I'm semi-retired. So I know Maria and Mark know me. I was there for years, and you probably say, who the heck is this guy they're talking to? But yeah, I'm the one that basically started the project. I was hopeful I would still be working full-time when it got completed, but the project unfortunately has been delayed. But at least I wanted to give you the courtesy. That's who I am, instead of you saying, who the heck is this guy talking that we don't know? But I'm Dave's boss.
We
I
know
still
you-
am for the time being.
We know you too
By the
well,
way, it's been
Jamie.
very comprehensive report. Thank you.
yeah, no, you're doing, it's great. We really appreciate it,
Yeah,
Jamie.
you give the
absolutely.
report every week, Jamie. It's all right. Every month. Appreciate it.
Make an appointment for next time.
And then on the Camelot pump station, that's substantial completion certificate has been issued?
I don't remember signing it.
Okay.
So unless Dave signed it, Dave usually has me sign it. I don't believe I signed that document.
I
Okay.
thought that Dave said last month that it had been on that one and it hadn't been on Old Mass.
Yeah.
It actually is substantially complete. I just don't recall, because Dave usually has me sign them, and I don't recall signing it.
Okay,
So
All
I'm
right.
not saying, I guess I can say I didn't sign it, whether Dave signed it. I mean, I didn't ask him specifically that question.
Hey, Jamie, if you have the copies of the agreements with Joe Bradley, I'd like those too. I haven't been able to get my hands on them so
Oh,
far.
the contract documents?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, not a problem. Not a problem.
that would be really helpful. We appreciate it. We're obviously a board in transition here.
I understand. I understand.
Hey, Jamie,
Yes.
can you, I just want to make sure I have the right numbers. You need 4 checks. Who are they made out to?
That's the question I asked Mr. Porter. It used to be the Clean Water Fund, and he said he had to check on it. That's why I was hesitant. I knew the numbers. I know the amounts. The amount was $700, a base check that would ultimately go to Delaware County Conservation District, and $200 for disturbance. Sometimes the checks are made out. One of them may be made out to the Delaware County Conservation District. One of them may be made out to the Clean Water Fund. And I'm not sure, so I don't want to tell you specifically, because I asked Dave specifically who the checks get made out to. And I'm going back in my memory from like 4 or 5 years ago when we did the other ones. And the other one, I think one of the checks would get made out to PA DEP and one may go to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, but I'd have to verify that with David.
And so it's 700, 200, 500, 100.
That's absolutely correct. Yes,
Okay, because I believe the board would need to act on those tonight.
that is absolutely correct. Yes.
All right. So, and that's for the, can we call it the DEP?
It's the NPDES permit application.
NP.
N, a capital N, P, D, E, S,
Okay.
for the old access to the old master's pump station.
Yep. Thank you. So that's 7, 8, 9. That's $1,500. I'm just going to say $1,500 total
Yep.
for the various public entities that require payment.
Yeah, so you're going to need to take.
We have to modify
Your
the
solicitor may
agenda.
say something different, but I believe you're going to have to take two actions. One, to amend the agenda, and then two, then take a vote on the action that you've amended the agenda for.
Absolutely.
I'd go through the motion so we get it in the minutes of calling for public comment to, on the amendment to the agenda.
I
Okay.
would, are you done, Mr. McCombie?
Unless you have any more questions for me, I'm finished at this time.
I would make a motion to amend the agenda for this evening to take a vote on issuing payments for the NPDES permits in the approximate amount of $15,000. $1,500 in aggregate.
I won't give that much away.
Okay, I'll second that motion to amend the agenda. Any public comment
Thank you.
on the amendment to the agenda? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and now we'll actually take a motion to approve payment in the amount of $1,500 for the NPDES permit application to the various public entities as part of that permit application process. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. Okay, thanks for your help on that, Jamie.
No problem.
And I would like written confirmation as soon as that application is submitted. Either, if you send it to Steve and copy me, that would be great, or whatever, but
That's fine.
thank you so much, Jamie. As you know, it's really important.
Yep, it absolutely is.
All right. All right, so that's it for the engineer's report. Steve, do you have an operations manager report?
I have nothing new to update you on other than what we're going to talk about later down on the agenda.
Perfect, okay. 16.1, possible action related to charging a credit card processing fee on the express bill pay for utility payments. Okay, so this was something in our package. I believe there was a little bit of information in there. I guess the major question is, do we feel as though the municipal authority should absorb the cost of credit card payments, which I believe is 3% for each transaction, or do we want to pass that off to the residents who are utilizing the credit card processing feature as a means of paying their municipal authority bill? I personally don't use that, but maybe those on the board that do or have any thoughts. I'm happy to hear anybody's thoughts on that.
So do you accept credit cards now, Steve? or-
We've been accepting credit cards for probably about the last 4 years, Richard, 5 years?
Yeah, about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. And so, Rich, were you able to pull together how many credit card payments we typically get in a quarter?
Yeah, I have them on annual numbers, but so overall we process about 15,200 payments per year, and about 20% of these are credit card.
Is that number of transactions or is that dollar?
That's the number of transactions.
Quite a few transactions.
That's normal.
And you've been paying for the past 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, on average, it costs the authority about $12,500 annually to absorb the credit card costs.
Why did this come up this time? That
I actually believe one of you, a board member,
It was
Lou,
me. Sorry.
brought this to our
It's just
attention.
Louis
I agree,
causing
Louis
trouble.
should pay the difference.
Yeah, it's just, I think it's a burden on administrative expenses for the overall authority that only 20% of our ratepayers are generating. The other 80% are sharing in it. So it just, from a position of, or the perspective of equity, it just doesn't make sense. There are so many other ways to pay. So I'm, as with many municipal organizations that accept credit card payments, they pass on the credit card charge, or they just don't accept credit cards.
Yeah.
So that would be my recommendation. And again, it's if the dollars were more significant, if it was a 5 or 6% charge that we were absorbing, I'd probably be more up in arms, but from the perspective of just being fair to those who don't use credit cards and are paying the freight, I think we pass it on.
How much of an administrative issue is that for us to change the way we're doing things to charge people for?
I mean, it would be something that's actually done by our express bill pay folks.
Okay.
Rich, is it a flat rate they charge, or do they actually, how do they do that? Is it like a 3% they just do?
I have a meeting with them. It's either later this week or next week to start discussing this. I scheduled the meeting after the board was going to give me action to pursue it or not pursue it.
So typically, the credit card company will tell you, we'll add on a 3%. And what I would tell you is it is different depending on the card. Some cards, typically like Visa and MasterCard are one price, Discover's typically another price, American Express is typically another price in their percentage that's charged for that. And so it's not a straightforward, but typically what an organization does is says, we charge 3% for all credit card fees, and that's how they do it.
And who gets the benefit of that?
So
So in
It
other
would
words, if
be-
they're charging 3% and someone, is it
Credit
express
cards.
bill pay that's
no, the
netting
money
the
would, the
benefit?
money would typically, we would still pay the fee, and we would get reimbursed for those fees based on
Okay,
what that's done.
okay, so the net difference is to our benefit and not
Yes.
not theirs, okay.
Okay, but you said, Rich, it's 15,000 people and only 20% of them are paying by credit card?
Yeah, it's 15,000 total payments per year, and 20% of them are paying by credit card.
That's such a small amount, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in the hundreds. I don't think we should switch. I mean, we've been paying this way 3-4 years. We're talking about a couple $100. I don't see the benefit of doing it,
The switching?
to switch at this point.
Okay,
And they've been
okay.
You're
doing
just
it-
asking 80% of those who don't use credit cards to subsidize the other 20%.
No, we're not asking them. I mean,
No,
that's
we're
how
telling
you-
them. that
No,
they-
that's how you do anything you buy. You buy credit card, or you buy with cash or check. You have the choice. Everybody has the same choice.
Yeah, and
But in
we're,
a-
I think the point that Lewis is making is that you do have a choice and you can choose to pay by credit card, but if you do, there's a convenience fee attached to that.
Yeah, if we were,
Because otherwise we're gonna pay the convenience.
yeah, if we were,
$300, $400.
if we were a for-profit
Nothing.
entity and had margin in the product that we're charging for, we'd build it in, as most stores and people who accept credit cards do.
It's 12,000 annually we're talking about, right?
Yeah, we spend about 12,000, what was it, 12,500, Rich?
Yeah.
Yeah, 12,500.
We spend 12,500.
12,000 transactions.
No.
No.
So there's
12,500
15,000
per year.
transactions. 3,000 of those transactions
Yes.
are credit cards. We pay roughly 12,500 for those 3,000 transactions. So my brain's a little dead tonight, but my calculator works.
3.5% of that.
So it's, maybe my calculator doesn't work. Let me do that one more time.
1,500 times 3.5%.
1% would be 125, right?
Yeah.
3% would be 370.
It's like $300.
No, but we are paying $12,500. So,
So it's not on the 12,500.
Right.
That's the 3% is the.
That's the
So you have to divide that by
3%.
0.03 and come up with an approximate number.
it's roughly $4.16 per transaction.
Yeah.
That's what I did it
Yeah.
backwards, but it's
I
$4.16.
mean, which is a lot of money. I mean, if it were me, I would say, I'm not gonna pay by credit card anymore, but. All right, I think we've deliberated enough and we can take a vote on this. I'll make a motion to change the express bill pay process so that the credit card processing fee is absorbed by the resident,
Pass through to them.
is passed through to the resident.
I would second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You can, go ahead.
You gotta call
You said all
opposed.
those in favor.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, all those not in favor.
Aye.
All right, the motion does not pass. Moving on. Discussion of possible action to contract with Portnoy Law Associates for delinquent billing collections.
So Rich and I met with Portnoy, and I'll leave it, but before I get started, did you want to make a motion before we discussed it, or do you want some information before you make a motion?
Yeah, why don't we?
Why don't you take an introduction and then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
determine
Okay.
whether you-
It was a little
Okay,
brief.
go ahead, thank you.
So, and I believe you have a packet in front of you from them. That's what this is. So Rich and I met with Portnoy. Rich can talk briefly. He's actually reached out to several other collection firms / companies that would do this. We reached out to Keystone, who is the one that does the collection of the 1%, or not 1%, the $1 a week fee, or the LST tax for those of you who are working and have to pay that wonderful $52 into Newtown Township if you work here, or some in other communities have that same tax, which is, it's kind of like
It's a head tax.
well, it's a head tax, but it's also used for its
Emergency
purposes
services.
is to cover emergency services that you potentially would be using while you're there during the day. And so anyway, we reached out to that company. And Rich, what was the name of the other company you reached out to?
The third company was called Arcadia Recovery Bureau. I did originally hear back from them. I asked for some more information from them, and then they kind of went silent on me. I did include the information that they did provide in your packet, but like I said, I reached back out for some additional information because I didn't feel like it was enough, and the trail kind of went cold with them.
So anyway, we met with one of their, I'm assuming sales rep type folks, came out to the office. They shared the packet with us. I would make note the way their system works, which is actually a nice little change that they've done. It used to be that you paid their service fee, particularly for the first, what used to be the first letter, which is now their second letter. You would pay that up front. They now don't, they now just take it from when you have collections equal to that amount. So if it cost them $2,000 to send it out, when you collected your first 2,000, they would offset it that way. Other than that, the fees and these fees are as well, but they're actually applied to each individual account holder. So if I'm the delinquent person, I would get a validation or a validation notice, which is $25, and that note $25 would be added to my account. And in order for that to happen, you would pass a resolution for each one of these fees that's on that sheet. And then they would be able to charge that fee against the account And then when they collected that fee, they would take that fee from there. On the others, on fee number 2, they would actually take it from the monies they were sending us initially, and then once that was collected, we would get it back once they've actually collected the fee. And then the rest of the fees are charged as they do the filings. And again, those are added to that person's, the account holders piece for each one of those steps. I think what's important for everybody to understand, if we were to go this direction, I think we would need to kind of talk about what's the threshold that we want to turn over to them, because obviously somebody who's late for one quarter, we don't necessarily want to be hitting with an additional $25 fee. And we don't want to be hitting with our late fee if we have one in addition to that. You know, I mean, if you're hitting all those things. So I think that, you know, we need to think about that. And then the second thing I would say, is it worth this on a bill that's less than, let's say, $500? You know, so you probably want to have 2 thresholds. One being if it's over a certain dollar amount, and if it's over 2 quarters, 3 quarters late. You know, one of the things that Rich and I know, Newtown has a high level of, or a high number of people that go away for significant periods of time. Like, we have a group that leaves in the winter and goes to the south to stay warm. And then we have other folks in the summer that leave and go to the shore. And occasionally we see that there are people who are late, miss a quarter, and are paying on the second quarter. I mean, we have that happen, and we kind of have seen that, and they're not trying not to pay. They just are gone, and it gets lost in, you know, their mail, and they, you know, haven't processed it in that way. But they typically make it right up. So if we were going to make a recommendation, I would probably say it has to be at least 3 quarters in delinquency, and has to be at least $500. But you know, obviously, you as a board can take a look at that. We looked, I think it was about 25, was it, Rich, cases, 32 cases, was it, that were over $1,000?
Over $1,000. Yeah, there's about 35.
Yeah. So their breaking point for some charges for you is actually 50 cases. And so for that, where I talked about the fact that they would cover the cost until we got the collections. So you may want to say, you know, 500 makes more sense than 1,000 if you're not wanting to have to cover those charges up front. So I'll answer any other questions you have, or you can take an action and then we can have more questions.
So what, and I appreciate that sort of introduction. Your thoughts on doing this versus not doing it and continuing to rely on the authority's staff,
Yeah.
and their availability to sort of pursue this. And that's really what the trade-off is.
Yeah,
right?
I think there's a couple things that you'll find. I mean, what Rich, if you will answer this in the regards, I know you've talked to a couple other municipalities that use this service. Would you share the benefit, and I'm going to use it as a benefit when you hear the numbers, that it's made the impact? I know Marple was one, and I think you talked to a couple others.
Yeah, so there's been a couple other, but the one that sticks out in my head is our neighbors, Marple. They have the same problem we have with about a 10% delinquency rate. At the end, I believe they do it on an annual basis. At the end of every year, they hand it over. And I think they get down to about between 2 and 3%. So they collect an additional 7% of their bad debt every year because of using the service.
And, you know, if you're thinking about that in light of, I think our bad debt's roughly about 180 in each fund, 130.
Yeah.
You know, you start running those numbers, that's a pretty good collection of what's outstanding.
Right.
You know, if we picked up an extra 70,000+ out of both of those, you know, I think there's a benefit. I think from our standpoint, the nice piece about it is that What I will tell you is they're going to be way more direct in collecting than we are.
Yeah, that
They-
first letter in their sample thing.
Yeah.
The first letter gets your attention.
Yes, and I just want, you have to think about that, because that is something that, some municipalities have a hard time, taking that kind of approach with their fellow residents. But I will say, we had a conversation with them. We talked about hardships. We can have a conversation with them of what hardship looks like, what we're willing. Typically, you can set it up that they can handle it, or you can say, anybody that says we have a hardship, it needs to be brought back to the township or the authority staff to review, so that we can make a decision about what that looks like. Typically, they try to get it done in a couple months or at the most a year to get that collection done. But they're going to be way more pressure, so to speak, than we are. Now, I will say, I believe the last piece, and this is something you have to think about, they will only do this if we commit to the whole program, and the whole program includes the ability to take a house to sheriff's sale. And so, that side, you just have to decide whether you're okay with that as an authority, as an approach. What I will tell you, what we know from some of the communities we've talked to, that's a rare thing that happens, that it goes that far, because most people and most mortgage companies won't let that happen. They'll just go ahead and add it to the mortgage and move right on, on mortgage companies. But if somebody has the house paid off, they're most likely going to pay it, so they don't have the house go to sheriff's sale for a small amount. But it is something that you need to be aware of as you're making a decision about this. This program is very different than our program, in regards to how we relate with the ratepayer. Currently we take some steps. Unless somebody is an ongoing type of situation, before we take them to court and get a judgment, we've tried to do a lot of other things first and do that. These folks are going to move through their process, and their process is pretty straight. It's pretty typical. It's pretty straightforward. I will tell you, for us, this is easier. There's no question, because we're not investing the time. In the past, we've had to rely on your legal counsel for lien filings and things like that. So it involves them in the process as well. So you just have to kind of, there's some costs there as well in the process, and that gets passed on as well. We charge that fee back to the customer who's not paying, but typically we pay that up front, and we move forward in that way. We file the lien, we're paying those fees, and then when we get the money back, we get the money back. Right now, we're not making whole on the liens typically, unless the ratepayer is going to sell the property or something like that. I think we've had one or two that we've actually taken to kind of move towards sheriff type sales. Is that right, Rich?
Yeah, we've had one that's actually gone to sheriff's sale and then came to an agreement with the authority right before.
So I don't think that would really change too much, to be honest with you. And if we found out there was a hardship, we could maybe make a discussion.
Yeah, and I like your suggestion to go, to have them, if somebody says the word hardship,
Yep.
They come back to the staff. But
I'm a little concerned on that point, that, unless there's something in writing, like I feel like when you give them information, they're just going to run with it. They're going to have their processes in place.
So can I share some experience and some thoughts on this?
Please.
The first being, I never want to discourage you from using your legal counsel for anything, because, it's a good thing to use your attorney all the time. But I've worked with them in a couple of municipalities, and aside from what Steve said, with the tone being a lot different from the way you treat your residents, probably, they do a great job. there's no way that your township staff has the time, nor do I, quite frankly, to chase people the way that Portnoy does it.
Yeah.
So, and it's coming from a third party, so it's really not like, hey, this is Steve from Newtown Township, you better pay your bill, you know, it's a different tone, but it also is coming from a different location, you know, so, so it's an easier fit. You know, the discussions, on, hardship and, the levels you want to set and that sort of thing. I think your real official action would be to hire them or not to hire them. I think you can have those discussions sort of administratively in a session so that you're not telling the world that they can get away with up to $500 or whatever the case may be. Whoever's watching the meeting, and hey, by the way, if you just say hardship, you know, you get an extra few months or something like that. So, you know, to the extent you want to have those discussions before you act, I would just table this and have the discussions next time you're together, outside of the public view administratively, how you want to set it, whether that impacts whether you want to take action or not, and then go from there. But, you know, I think they really do a good job. You know, I worked with them in Nether Providence, and I did a little bit of work with them for a while in Chester as well. So obviously two very different flavors, and good experience with both.
Yeah, I will say, I think they're very professional in what they do. So
I think we've talked about it a lot, this board. I mean, some of the newer members, maybe not, but we've talked, you know, thought this through a little bit, and now we're looking, you know, we've had the material. If Mike thinks that, you know, we can approve the hiring of this firm to handle the collection efforts based on parameters set by Stephen and his staff in collaboration with this board, I would be happy to make a motion to approve them, to hire them tonight. So, everybody okay with that?
I'll second that.
Totally.
Okay.
Totally.
All right. So we have a motion to approve Portnoy as our collection solicitor, who will work and direct Steve to work with Portnoy in collaboration with the board regarding details as to the you know, the administrative aspect of collections.
and I would suggest that you just add to your motion that we would have your solicitor just review the contract between the two. Just so
And all contracts related to the hiring of Portnoy shall be approved, subject to legal review.
I'll second that as well.
Okay?
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
And Rich, thanks for all your work on this.
Yeah, thanks, Rich.
Thank you.
Okay. Discussion and possible action regarding formation of a debt service task force to develop a long-term solution for municipal authority debt. And this has to do with the
September 1st.
yeah, September 1st bond repayment. So Steve, maybe just give us a little bit of a background on it.
Yeah, I think I shared with you, you know, probably back in January, the need that, you know, we're sitting here, we're gonna have to really look at how we're going to start making bond payments going forward. If you recall, we're using this year's tap fees to cover that, with the anticipation of the tap fees that are come from Equus for the project that they're working on. And hopefully when we get the pump station up at Old Masters and where that's what we were anticipating. And so with that in mind, we need to look at long-term, how we're going to pay back the 30 million. And there's a little bit of work that needs to be done to talk about what the different options are, and really kind of look at it from a couple different ways and, you know, make some suggestions back to this board. I think it would be helpful to have a board member or two be a part of that process, so that we could come back and report back to the group and say, here's what we've talked about and we've looked at. It will probably involve some of your solicitor's time in just kind of reviewing and making sure that we're not stepping out of bounds on what we can legally do. Some things sound really good, and then the law says, that's too convenient or too easy, and you have to do it this way. So I would think that we would be, we would do initial, come up with some ideas, go back to your solicitor and then come back to you as a group saying, these are the ways that we could go forward.
Right. I feel as though Louis and maybe Tom might be good for working on this. That way,
If
Mark,
that's
you
okay.
can just continue
right.
with your treasury like duties. And consult, work with Steve. Would that be okay? I don't know that we need a motion on it, but
I don't think so.
so just Tom and Louis get together. When can we expect something back to the full board that maybe?
So I think if we can get together and start, I would hope to have something to you I'd like to have it to you at the June meeting, but it depending on how we're doing, it may be the July meeting, just in timing, because I think that we would like to have, I think what we had talked about before is we would like to have a lot of lead time in how we communicate this to the ratepayers
public,
so that everybody kind of understands what we're doing. And so my idea would be the sooner that we could get it back to you, get the approval, communicate it also with the Board of Supervisors, just so, because even though it's not, they're required for their approval, but just so that everybody kind of knows what page we're on and how we're going at this, because they're looking at things as well. And so I just want to make sure that we're communicating the best we can on what each separate thing is, because we're also looking at some stormwater issues. And so I just want to communicate clearly in how we do that.
And just for some of our, the public that may be watching us on some electronic channel, it's not like we don't know how we're going to make the September 1st payment. This is really September 1st and beyond. This is just
we
too
have
longer term.
money to
Absolutely.
make this year's payment without a question.
Yeah.
We actually have money to make next year's payment without a
Absolutely.
question. I don't want, we're not talking about defaulting on anything.
Right.
So,
We're being proactive with our,
Yeah.
budget, and
Great.
absolutely. I think that's great.
Great.
And we'll just, I just want to make sure that we'll work into that task force, the, options, so that, the board has some options as to how to proceed.
Great.
Okay. All right, next, consider approving the municipal authority engineer to investigate a possible connection issue at 308 Echo Valley Lane. Were we going to table that matter? Or was
no,
that-
I think with Jamie,
Oh, Jamie was going to talk about this at
yeah,
this point.
you have some information. Is that correct? I believe you need a survey or something.
Yes, with regard to 308, we would need to go out and just verify some elevations and make a report back to the authority and Steve's office with regard to their ability to connect. Because I think apparently there's a couple contractors that have difficulty figuring out how they can make a connection by gravity and are proposing different alternatives. But I think that if we verify the elevations out there, we'll be able to give you the 100% answer of what the issue is.
Jamie, are you and your firm able to do that survey?
Yes,
Okay. And
that's
what
why I'm sticking around, because I'm the one that has the survey license.
Oh, good. Well, don't go anywhere. And what would you say is your time frame on that?
It would probably be within a week.
Okay. Okay. Well, is that you? We're going to make a motion, and then as part of that, there'll be an option to make public comment, and that way you can, if you're not happy with the motion, you can, okay. I think that's the best way to handle it at this point.
Yes.
Okay.
So Jamie, that survey will determine what we can and can't do?
Yes, yes.
Okay, why don't we put it this way, is what the homeowner wants, which is to not have it connected at its, okay. Okay.
Right.
Excuse me,
just
I'm
hang on
sorry
one
to interrupt
second.
you. Because we're recording, If I could have you come and stand over here and make sure the mic is green when you just push is the mic right up there?
Yes, it is.
I guess the
Is
other
it green now?
pieces, even though
Yeah,
we
yes.
are the homeowner, we just need name and address.
Just- yeah.
So Jeffrey Hilliard, 308 Echo Valley Lane.
Thank you.
And we did get your letter, by the way, and I think we've all read
We've all
it,
read
and it
multiple
was
times.
very well written.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah, just seeking guidance. We have every intention of hooking up,
Sure.
but nobody's given us an estimate. So if we could have someone from McCombie come out, do I have the floor right now? Can I explain what happened?
it's fine.
we
I
know,
mean,
we
it's a
know.
little bit out of order. I was gonna make a motion and then have you come up and comment if you weren't happy with the action we were gonna take. But just go ahead and give us,
We had originally put the tap on one side of the house, and then
Yeah.
I was away traveling, and they had called me and said, it's not going to go here. We're gonna put it on the other side of the house. And I wasn't able to say yay or nay. They just went ahead and did it. And I said, all right, we'll deal with it. We have a creek running through the front yard on the other side of the house.
are you okay with it there if the engineer's okay with it?
Yeah,
there
if we
and
can
you're
do
able
it.
to
And we're
connect?
actually, my wife and I are okay with grinder pump as well. We have a backup
Yeah, I
generator. So
saw
we're
that.
willing to work with everybody involved. We originally wanted gravity. We just don't know if it's possible to go from our house. It's very low. So we don't know if it's possible to get through the creek and then out to the street on gravity.
Well, what we're going to do tonight, I was going to make a motion to approve a survey by our engineer, McCombie Engineering, in order to determine how and when this connection and the creation of or installation of a grinder pump can take
If
place.
possible.
So that was going to be the motion, and to work with you to make sure that you stay informed as to the process. And then we'll take it from there. We were just told that he could have that done in about a week, the survey. So, did he say 2 weeks?
No, I said 2 weeks.
Oh.
He says a week, I say 2 weeks.
Okay, Mark, you're, commenting.
Jamie.
Thanks, Mark.
Told about a
Well,
week, so, as a guideline, that's a guideline, so, okay.
Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you very
No,
much.
we appreciate your letter, and that was very, very helpful, actually.
Thanks for stopping by.
Hey, thanks for having me. And I did make the payment. So I did make the tap and fee payment. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to make a motion at this point to approve a survey at, I think it's 308 Echo Valley, in order for McCombie Engineering to determine where the connection, whether or not the current proposed connection is appropriate for 308 Echo Valley for the installation of a grinder pump as well, as opposed to gravity feed. May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
And, obviously, keep us apprised if there's any issues with having that survey done within a reasonable period of time. And directing that to Jamie.
I heard you. I'm listening. I will tell them what to do, but I've been sort of letting them run the show for the last year and a half, so
That's right. You're responsible,
Yeah.
Jamie. It doesn't
I'm
matter.
responsible anyhow, so
Exactly.
that's fine.
Get it right. and Don't screw us up, come on.
Get it done quick before you.
Well, two of my sons still work there, and one of them surveys, so I'll be telling him what he's doing.
There you go.
Thank you. Thanks, Jamie.
Yep.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Okay, so next item, developer release. Consider approving the request from Bentley at Worthington Associates for the release of the sanitary maintenance letter of credit in the amount of $16,650. And I think this issue, we're ready to go on this as far as a motion. All right?
Yeah, I think if you're going to make a motion, it should be subject to somebody's approval probably, because it sounds like there's a little more information we need to dig into, but seems like it's ripe.
Yeah.
Or
So
will
I'll
be
make,
ripe during the
I'll
meeting.
make the motion to approve the request for the release of that letter of credit, subject to review by a member of this board, Louis Rosenthal, and our solicitor, Mike Madron, before that can be released. May I have a second?
Second.
Any comments, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any old business? I am not aware of any.
That's-
Oh, just, yeah, as far as the Springton
He
Point
has a letter.
fence,
He has a
I
letter.
think,
So,
Mr.
I took a look at the issue with the Springton Point fence that you guys discussed in some detail last month. And when we got a hold of the easement, we saw that it specifically excludes fence lines from requiring any authority approvals or process. So I put a letter together to that effect for the association, and we'll issue that tomorrow.
Okay,
Thank you,
and
Mike.
yeah, no necessary action. I did see that letter. I thought it looked good. So, thank you.
And we already called Dave and we'll work with him, making sure it doesn't get in the way, because we have to move it again, but
Right.
it won't.
Make sure that it doesn't block the entrance, that's all.
Exactly.
All right, any public comment at this point for any other items? All right, hearing none. Anybody have anything that they absolutely want to see on next meeting's agenda? Be a good time to bring that up. Anything else that,
Nothing else.
I think we're good. Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you.
Good meeting.